Hello, everyone, and welcome to this bonusode, one of our final episodes of the year, returning early in the new year with a children's kids ListenABLE podcast special. But we thought we would round out the year with a ListenABLE Q&A deal. This is where people have asked us questions about the podcast, about our friendship, about me and you individually, about the disability community. We've opened it up through our DMs, our open comment section on Facebook and Instagram. And this is the voice of producer Amelia.
Hello.
G'day, Meals.
I thought it would be fair that you don't know the questions, that I don't know the questions either, so that we can both have authentic answers unprepared.
Yeah, we'll give them bite-sized little answers. We'll get to as many as we can.
Yes.
All right, let's go to it. This one comes from Lauren on Instagram. How did this podcast come to be? Like, how did you guys want to get involved in the disability space on audio medium?
This one was Dylan and I were doing a radio show together. We became good mates. We started spending time away from the studio where we didn't have to together. And then I started to realise accessibility issues to do with like Melbourne roads, gutters, lack of accessibility into stores, etc. And then I decided that whenever I was going to go out for a coffee with Dylan, I would then call up the place first and ask about their accessibility so that it didn't have to be a conversation that was in any way, shape or form uncomfortable. We could rock up and have a coffee, a beer, fish and chips, whatever it was together. And from myself having to do that, I went, oh, this is weird that this has to be a thing. Accessibility is an issue. And as somebody who's able-bodied, I'd walked my life without really thinking about it for 30 years. And so we started a podcast because Dylan's the same. I know Dylan doesn't, he always says, you're not the Dalai Lama of disability. You don't know everyone or everything about disability. And I think we both learn so much each episode, right?
Yeah, mate, that was very nice. Angus had a great idea to do this. We were both broadcasters, but to do it in a way whereby we can do it in a really authentic but relatable way as an able-bodied person who know much about disability and as someone who's in the community to create that together. Angus's idea, beautiful man. I'm very proud of what we've created.
Thanks for your question, Lauren.
And what's the biggest thing you've learned since starting this podcast?
Oof. What's one moment, Dill, from an episode that kind of sticks out for you?
Probably learning more about the neurodiverse community and the deaf community. And I think, I often get a couple of barbers online of people saying, you don't speak on behalf of me and everyone, and I agree, But I think there is an assumption because you are one of the only people on TV, which is crap, then as you way more, that I expect to know. I really don't. And I just across just from our people and their stories and their authentic way and their vulnerability, I have learned an absolute shed load of stuff I didn't know. I can't even tell you how much, so much stuff. And I'm really grateful for it because it's made me a better person, more so than a better advocate as well, just genuinely knowing more about different people and their stories. Yeah, I'm bloody grateful for it. I really am.
Yeah, and I on reflection, I don't think I want to mention one person or one moment because it dismisses a lot of others. They've just been, I've learned more than I could have ever dreamed. And this podcast has done things that I never thought would be possible.
Oh, to the point where, sorry to add this, Angus did the best. I'll tell you one thing you learnt, mate, which really changed me and the way you said it. You know when you have a baby and everyone says, as long as it's healthy, I don't care. You were saying, I just want to have a baby. And I was like, wow, what a learning from you. Because health isn't just if it's born 10 fingers, 10 toes. You know what I mean? And I remember when you said that, I was like, wow, what a beautiful growth story of the way that you even perceive life. You know what I mean? So that was something that really stuck with me that happened during this podcast, that I was proud of us, that I probably would have said the same thing. I was like, you know what? That's so true and shows how important language is. Really, really cool.
Yeah, we had a couple of friends who were just a couple of months ahead of us and their Instagram post for their birth of their son was happy, healthy boy born. And I was like, that doesn't sit right with me. And yeah, I was going to be happy with Indy just being with us.
This one comes off Peter on Instagram. In what ways have you made it more accessible for your guests to be on the show?
We make sure that all of our studios, we've worked out 4 different studios now for this podcast, and we've made sure that all of them have the accessibility needs from access into the studio themselves, ramps, toilets, sound, sensory. We're trying our very best to always, not necessarily for the guest, but just in general, have accessible spaces. And then the big one was accessible content. You know, we do alt text on our Instagram posts. I just found out that Facebook, as it automatically shares our Instagram post, does not carry over the alt text. I learned that yesterday.
Oh.
So now I'm going to start doing photo ID descriptions on every post. So that's a change that I'll make. But we are always learning, and myself as well. And Amelia does captions on our YouTube videos, so to make sure that people who are deaf or hard of hearing can join in on these conversations. And I very recently, I think 48 hours ago from today, shared the story of a girl who said, "Hey, thank you so much for making this podcast. It's the first one I can talk about with my friends." And that was, I was like, well, then that's it. Doesn't matter if it gets 50, 100,000, 10,000 views. That one view is so important.
Anyone with any recommendations how to make it better, please let us know. We are a community. We aren't know-it-alls and we don't know everything. So definitely sing out.
Last question.
Where do you see this podcast going? More live shows? What kind of reach do you want to have? Do you ever consider doing like documentaries?
A new producer, a new co-host. I can't work under these conditions anymore. I am sick of this.
I think the podcast just needs. I think we'll just continue to open ourselves up to more voices. I think Dylan and I might allow more people to have their voice shared in a larger capacity on the podcast. If Dylan and I can't be available for a podcast in the future, maybe we substitute that with another voice, because this podcast isn't about us. It's about the voices and lived experience of people with disability and sharing that however we can. I mean, we're going to be part of it, of course, but, if there is an opportunity to get two people in to share their lived experience, like you're going to hear in January an episode about ListenABLE Kids, which is young adults talking about their disabilities without Dylan and myself involved in that, and that's really important. So thank you very much, everyone, for your questions. I'll answer all the ones we didn't on Instagram as well and Facebook. Until the next episode of ListenABLE, take care of yourself over this summer, and we'll talk and speak to you and see you soon.
Thanks, everyone.